table because we have to bring our voice. And that's why it is so critical that women work in the field of engineering, computer science, or whatever your particular functional area is, because we have a voice, and our voice is important, and we bring a lot to the table. So I encourage you, if you're thinking about it, try it before you don't like it, but don't like it before you try it, okay? Try it. Let me say this, I have 2 daughters who are now in college, and neither one of them wanted to even try it, and they had problems with their mother with that. So I do encourage you, if you're here, you absolutely have an idea about it. So we ask that you to think about it and try it, because we need you.
I was going to say, I think my mom was really struggling with the fact that I wanted to do engineering, just because my sisters chose a business route. And she thought that maybe it would be too stressful. I am not gonna lie, there was nights where I was up studying really late and I had anxiety attacks for that sort of issues, but I got through it. You know, you want to show that you can get through it, especially in the Latino force. It's just the issue of I'm here and I'm gonna stand right next to everyone else.
Yeah, it's no secret that like the engineering curriculum is really hard. It is, but I mean, the whole point in college is that you're going to learn, so they're not expecting you to show up to college and know how to like build a robot or know how to code a computer or anything. So the whole point is that you're going to learn, so you shouldn't be discouraged if you don't know how to code, or if you don't know, or you didn't take like AP Science or something, because the whole point is that you're going to learn, and by the end of your senior year, you're going to know you're going to have all these skills, because that's their job. They need to teach you how to do these things. So you shouldn't be discouraged about any of the classes that you would take, because, I mean, I didn't take AP Math, and then I turned out fine. I passed my math classes. So the whole point is that you can do it, and there's obviously, by the people sitting next to us, they made it through it, so you're going to learn, and so you shouldn't be discouraged by how hard it should be, because it's good to challenge yourself, and you shouldn't be discouraged from challenging yourself.
Great. Okay, so Lourdes, so do you think internships give you a competitive edge in applying to full-time jobs? And is it common for internships to turn into jobs at the same company?
Well, I know for me, and I think a lot of companies are doing this, but with internships, a lot of companies are trying to funnel young talent into their companies, which I think is pretty cool. But if you're I would say start looking for an internship when you're a freshman. You may not get them just because you may be inexperienced, but just try to get your foot in the door so people know who you are, so you get some practice with interviewing. But always research the internship, because you might get an internship, but depending on the company, you may not be doing anything that directly impacts the company. Because I know for a friend of mine, she was working for a good company but not doing much. But versus me, I was working for John Deere and I was doing something with SharePoint, and I saw my work being directly used by other people. And you like to see your effort being used. Like, I think that's one thing I really liked. I saw the effort that I was putting was used by the whole company. And I know at UOI, there's a really cool thing. They have Research Park where there's a bunch of companies all trying to get engineering students, computer science students to work for them, and you can get experience that way. Like, I work part-time for John Deere throughout the school year, and so I got to see a lot more more of the company, got to meet some higher ups, which I think was pretty cool, and I got to learn a lot more while working throughout the school year. You make money like that.
It's always good to have extra cash. That's awesome. Okay, so Ms. Hithika, I know you got your bachelor's degree in India, and I've heard that women in India have historically faced barriers while pursuing STEM-related degrees. So how is it earning a bachelor's degree in India for you?
Okay, so yes, I would say historically, yes, it's been difficult. I think it's been difficult all around, not just India. And we're talking about it right now for women. It's been on the difficult side. For me, fortunately, I didn't have that big of a problem. My father was electronics and communication engineer himself, so for me it was relatively very easy to see where I want to be and what I want to do. and then going on to do the bachelor's, and throughout the 4 years that you do it, it's not one decision you make, okay, I'm going to do it. You have to go through that 4 years and excel at every year in every subject you do. So it's that duration, you have to have that commitment to do that. But I would say it's been changing quite drastically for the last 10, 15 years in India. It's totally different. Now it's not a question of whether, should she do it or not, and it's more a question of which engineering field should she take as. So that conversation has changed in the last 10, 15 years. The exposure is so high. Right now, the world has become one. So it's not even a question of which country you would, or which place in India. Within India, it's a diverse country. So with which place you're in from. So that has changed. For me, unfortunately, going back to that answer, is I didn't have that much of a problem, but for me, fortunately, I had that guidance to go into electronics and communications, so I pick up that. But coming from you, you can go ahead and pick what you like. I think it would be great to see engineers who are other than that, because in India, I would say computer science, electronics and communication, IT, and all those are preferred, but I would love to see women engineers in aeronautical engineering, chemical, and because she's going to bring pull-ups out, which I would use. So, so those are the aspects I think women have to have a seat in.
Great. Okay, so for those of you that have received master's degrees, how important would you say pursuing a master's degree is, and do you think it gives you a competitive edge while applying to different jobs and for career advancement?
I would say something to that. Even though my master's degree is not in engineering, I believe it's given me a great competitive advantage for a number of different reasons. My first master's degree is in adult education, and I was using that because as an engineer in manufacturing plants, I was responsible for purchasing and installing machinery, but I was also responsible for training the operators on using that machinery. So that master's degree helped me to understand the minds of people beyond high school. I had people, I think my youngest student was 26 and my oldest student was 65 in one class for machines. So it's very different from teaching elementary school and high school, that's for sure. And then you are having to be able to help the operators understand the technical knowledge, the safety knowledge, and then just the operational knowledge on the machines. So that master's degree definitely helped. As becoming an elementary school teacher, obviously I had been out of elementary school for a number of years. I've been teaching full-time for 11 years now, I think, something like that. But again, times have changed, and one of the reasons why I became a teacher is because I wanted to help students, particularly girls and minorities, to get more involved in, we say STEM, and I say STEAM because now I definitely want to encourage the incorporation of art with science, technology, engineering, and math. So I say STEAM. But I want to make sure that we get kids involved, and they can be involved as young as kindergarten. I do a precision paperworking class, and I don't know if you're familiar with metalworking, making things with metal, making things with paper. Kindergartners can understand raw materials, their paper, their crayons. They understand taking pride in their work and designing and building the best kind of airplane that they can. They understand the implementation of their design, flying the airplanes. Did it fly? Did it not? Yes, go back, go with your team and do it over. As young as 5 years old, I would work with different programs to help the kids understand what I did as an engineer. And if you help people to become more aware of these careers, they start to understand what types of classes they need to take. They take those classes and they end up being very successful and make a lot of money in the profession that they've chosen.
I was just thinking about that, yeah. At the time when I went to get my master's degree, I'm kind of one of those people when you tell me that I can't, when I have to like prove you wrong. And well, like, I ran across some obstacles being female in engineering at one of my companies, and oh, you don't know this, you can't do that. So I'm like, okay, I'll go get another degree. And at the time, I worked for Tellabs, and telecommunications was something I needed to learn about. And I think it definitely helped me for that time and the time for that particular organization, as well as it continues. It not only speaks to your knowledge base, it speaks to your overall profile as an individual. Because it talks about you always wanting to learn, and that you're always willing to grow, and you're always willing to put in the extra effort. Because I went to graduate school while I worked full time. So there's more to it than just getting the degree. It just speaks to you over the life of your career. So I would say yes, it definitely helps, because that's the first thing someone said to me. They looked at my LinkedIn profile the other day. But you don't have your master's degree. I'm like, hold up, I just haven't had a chance to finish editing it. But yes, I do think it's very helpful.
I did my master's as well. So I continued from electronics and communication to telecommunications. That was my master's in. I would say it definitely gives you an edge when you're applying for jobs. Not because you're highly focused on one of the fields, but because you have research, you have put in extra effort for those 2 or 3 years. You have had a vigorous 2 extra years of learning that particular field. So it's about learning. Knowledge never goes to waste. You are going to utilize it whether you like it or not, in fact. So you're going to utilize it, and people are looking for that. It's not that they're going to give you money for free. They want that extra knowledge, and that gives you edge over others. Having said that, I would like to retract and say, engineering is application. You are going to apply things what you people have made. It's about logical sciences and then using them of trying to solve a problem. So that does not, not having a master's does not stop you from doing your job well. Once you have established yourself, you would be highly regarded for what you do. But getting the foot in the door, I think at this time in 2015, I would say it definitely gives you an edge.
Great, okay. So now I'd like to open up the floor for any questions that you guys may have. So there's going to be 2 people walking around with mics, so if you have a question, just kind of motion to them.
Somebody's got a question. All right.
Alright, for you 3 who got your master's degree, how did you balance like working and getting your education, or furthering your education?
For me, my first master's, I was married, but I didn't have children, but I did work full time. It was a little difficult at first. The reason why I had decided to get my master's was because I was working for Kraft General Foods at the time, a manufacturing plant, and they had been offering what's called flex time, where you can kind of adjust your work hours based on your classes. Well, for some reason, at the time that I applied for that, I was denied. And I was told that I could not have flex time for my master's degree. And I said, oh, really? I quit. So when I gave them a formal letter, and I said, because I had made a decision that I wanted to go ahead and get that master's degree because I enjoyed what I did for manufacturing, but I knew I had another job lined up just in case. I was able to take, it was about 1.5 years, and I actually got my master's after leaving the company, but then I was hired by, it was a combination of Northern Illinois University and DePaul University, to become a part of their work-study program, where I actually would do consulting and go in manufacturing plants and teach reading, writing, math, and English as a second language, as it corresponded to the technical aspects of the machinery in the various manufacturing plants. So I was kind of able to adjust that way. With my second master's, I was insane. I was married with 2 kids and working full-time. I joined a cohort, and that's basically where you have the same people taking the classes with you throughout the entire program. And that was tough. One of the things as an industrial engineer, I was effective with time management and managing a family. I always tell people my industrial engineering degree had nothing to do with work. It all has to do with managing life. And I will say that that degree has probably helped me more with life than anything itself. So being able to just establish, what is it exactly that you have to do, staying on target and focusing on my schoolwork, my children, my work, things actually balanced out. When you look at it in hindsight, I don't see how I did it, but at the time, you determine, I think that's being a female as well, you do what you need to do, and I have no regrets whatsoever.
That's a great question. At the time I was married, no children, and I'm thinking now I was probably crazy as well. So I actually attended I worked full time, and I actually went to graduate school full time. And I worked in the suburbs, and I went to school downtown Chicago. So that means I took 4 classes a week, one class like Monday through Thursday night, and continued my life. I'm thinking that was kind of nutty, wasn't it? But you know what? I actually finished my master's degree fairly quickly. So DePaul is on the quarterly system, and I do remember I was done within a year and 2 quarters, I believe, a year and 3 quarters. But at the time, it seemed like the right thing to do. I don't know. And I said to myself, you know what? And I'm kind of this way. If I'm going to do it, I'm going to give it my 110%. And I wanted to get it over with, get it quick. I figured if I had to study for 3, what one more class is going to do to me? I never went to sleep anyway. So, but that's how I did it. I don't encourage anybody to take my lead on that, okay? So that's how I did it.
For me, I did my master's right after I completed my bachelor's. I applied for a research assistantship. I wanted to be more focused on the research portion of it, and that's how I went into master's eventual. At that time, I was thinking of going into PhD as well, but I stopped in master's. Don't ask me why, but I stopped in master's. But I was able to support myself with that research assistantships, and those are available for undergraduate students as well. So they pay your tuition, they also pay your stipend, which you can utilize for other things. And that's how I was able to survive the 2 years. I did my research in interdisciplinary field, so I had my wireless. I also have biomechanical. So I was developing these wireless sensors who would get these data out of the gate monitoring system that you put on feet and walk over, and it would wirelessly transfer to maybe a doctor or somebody. So that was a direct application of what I was trying to do. And during the master's, that was it. I think what made me choose master's right after, I was single, I was not married, I met my husband while I was doing the master's, but what made me choose master's was I loved academics. I wanted to go a little bit more into research, and one way was to get, the only way I would say was to get, and just at least try it. So I tried applying it, and the University of Nebraska gave me a full-blown scholarship. I said yes, and I'm going there. So that's how I decided to go.
Any other questions?
Okay, so my question is for the student panel. What kind of classes do engineering students take?
Well, for our freshman year, for me and Meg, we had to take, all the engineering students generally had to take the same classes. So the big ones that everyone had to take was chemistry. That was a big deal. Some majors had to take chemistry. Okay, I don't think computer science has to take chemistry, but the other ones do. So we have a track at our school. It's called engineering analysis, and that's what every undergrad engineer has to take. So there's 4 classes in that sequence. Computer science majors will have to take the 4th one, which is differential equations, and the hardest one, so that works out for me. But we had to take statics, dynamics, and then linear algebra, and a little bit of coding. And then everyone had to take some math. That was pretty much the basics, I think. Right? Yeah, that's basically it. Oh, wait, we had to take, so I had to take, chemistry, math. We had to take 4 quarters of math, 4 quarters of engineering analysis, except for computer science. But our engineering analysis class is actually kind of cool, because the whole basis is that each quarter is basically a different type of engineering. So our first quarter was a lot of comp sci, our second one was a lot of mechanics, our third quarter was systems, and like Meg said, our last quarter is going to be differential equations. And then we also take this class, like I mentioned a while back, is design thinking and communication, which was actually really cool, and that's why I like best about the program, is that they get companies that are in relation to Northwestern, or like people in the Evanston area that have a legitimate problem and they want a solution to it. So I got to design something for the Rehabilitation Institute of Chicago. I got to make padding for this exoskeleton they had, and my other project was working with Pace Bus, and that was more of like an industrial engineering project. They wanted us to improve their system. So that's a really interactive class we were able to take. So that's basically the gist of what you take freshman year. So
I think freshman year you start off with the basic courses. You can have differential equations, but ideally you're looking at math 1, 2, 3, and 4. So you just go into there and then you develop from there, and then you have physics, and then most of us have chemistry, but not everybody. So you have chemical engineering, but starting off, and then you may have physics, a little bit of those aspects as well. So I think the freshman year will be more on basics, which you've already learned in your school. So that's what you're going to apply, and then you go build up. And that's why I think even if you have not decided, the freshman year helps you decide which way you want to go to.
This upcoming year, like once you get into sophomore year, things start getting a little bit more technical. Well, I know last year since I'm a mechanical engineer, all of the freshmen had to take a class called Introduction to AutoCAD. So basically we had to do computer-aided design. They put us in teams and we had to basically learn how to use computer design software, and then basically create kind of a product. We don't have to actually make it, but just create it in the software, and then just kind of showcase how it could be used for practical purposes. This year I'm going to take statics, so a lot of forces on large structures. I'm also taking a circuits class, which a lot of the engineering majors have to do. I'm also taking dynamics, so it's more like a machinery that actually moves. You take classes like thermodynamics, or chemical engineering and mechanical engineering majors take those. I'm not really looking forward to it because I'm not really interested in that, but it's something you have to take, you have to deal with. After sophomore year, you do start getting a little bit more technical, but I think that the bulk of classes of like where you actually get to see what your major does actually starts in your junior year. So like junior years, we'll have to do fluid dynamics, more in-depth thermodynamics, all of these really complex classes. Design for manufacturability is another class I'll have to take. So like what I did in my AutoCAD class, I actually get to not only make the product in the computer, I actually have to fabricate it myself. So I have to get a prototype of the product, and I'll probably take that either by the end of my sophomore year or junior year. So you have all of these classes where you get a little bit of a push more into what your major does, but again, it doesn't start until your second or third year, so you don't have to worry about it right from the beginning.
Yeah, for senior year, you usually take senior design, which is, I know the programs differ within the majors, but they could be 1 semester or 2 semesters. So senior design is when essentially you get a project throughout the whole semester. You got a group that you stay with that whole semester, and that I really enjoyed those classes just because that's kind of how work is. You get a project, a problem, you get the group of people that you're going to work with, and then you solve how to fix it. So for my senior design project, we had how to make oil essentially from a raw product, and then it went back you didn't just do engineering, you had to go back into the logistics of where were you going to build your plant. where were you going to get your raw products within the span of 10 years? So you had to look at the stock exchange of how this raw material was changing, which one, because they give you a certain amount of money that you're essentially supposed to use, but throughout the whole project, I don't think any of the teams stayed within that limit of the budget. We all went over because product of acrylic acid was really differing around the years. You kind of go into the history, because engineering courses within your sophomore and junior years, you kind of just learn the technical aspect. And then senior years where you get thrown into the real world, like, okay, so you have this and you really like this technique, but how much does it cost to a company? How much is it costing you? And that's the sort of thinking that I wish they had incorporated kind of sooner, because they really give you this technical aspect, but then you kind of get brought into this box when, and then senior year they just expect you to be outside of this box, which kind of confused me a little bit, but it really helped, especially when I came into work, when I was like, but we have to see how is this cost beneficial to the company, how much are we going to lose, over how many years do you gain this money back, essentially.
Some of the classes that you take depend on the university that you're attending. With many of the girls that I'm working with now, and I'm still involved in a lot of engineering, even though I'm teaching, I do a lot of engineering consulting over the summers. Many of the universities actually get students involved in the technical aspect of engineering from the first semester freshman year. And a lot of that involves just helping the students understand what the different types of engineering could be, in matching up with the interest of the students. At the same time, you also have the classes like English, speech, all of those classes that people think, oh, well, wait, why do I have to have that? Or I don't have to have it because I had 1 or 2 semesters in high school. I always encourage the students that I mentor to take those classes in college, because once you're graduating, you're becoming a part of teams. Very few jobs involve individual work. Most of your job involves working in some type of team, making written presentations, making oral presentations, developing what they call webinars. There's all kinds of things that you have to present in terms of, what were the effects of your work. So you have a lot of those kinds of classes, and I encourage you to actually, even if you don't have to take them in college, because it incorporates how you're going to use those skills once you've graduated, or I would even say in your internships or co-ops. So you definitely don't want to overlook those classes.
Yeah, and then it doesn't have to be a class, but I know just being in a club, you have to interact with other people a lot. Those soft skills, sort of, you meet a lot of engineers who are super smart, and you can see it on paper, but when you talk to them and incorporate them, you don't really understand what they're saying. You're like, what did you just say? Are you speaking English? So you kind of do have to develop that. You go into the school, you know all these things, you're gonna learn, you're gonna get all that education. But you also need to know that at the end of this path, you're gonna be talking to people who may not have had the education that you had. You're gonna be working with other people who maybe think differently. So definitely join clubs that, like someone was saying, like a robotics team and that sort of stuff, because those sort of things teach you how to be in a team, teach you how to interact with different people. Not everyone's the same, not everyone has the same background. You just gotta learn from, I guess, having fun in college. You just go out there. You're learning, you're being an engineer, but you're also there as a person. It's not your whole background, I guess.
Also, one other thing with classes, don't be afraid to deviate from the preferred path your advisor may give you, because sometimes it can be a little too much. You might want to go down something that's more geared towards yourself. Always think about yourself in terms of how can I come out on top my way versus what my advisor says. I learned it the hard way, where last semester I took genetic biology, chemistry, calculus 3, university physics, a CAD class, all at the same time, and I felt ruined inside. So this semester I definitely, instead of doing what my advisor said, oh, you can be with everyone else in your major, no necessarily, do what is going to make you ultimately happy, what will make your schedule the best for you, so you can actually get sleep. And you can still kind of like substitute classes too. Everything's not just like prerequisite after prerequisite after prerequisite. You can mix it up a little bit. if you want. It's really flexible in college. It's not like how it is in high school where you have to do Western Civ and then you have to do CWI. It's not like that. You can mix it around a bit. It's a lot better.
Yeah, with that, I didn't know until my junior year that you could actually use your research with your professors as a class, and that covers a technical elective. And when I went abroad, that covered a class. Like, you can start eliminating things, you just need to research, because I didn't know this, and I could have been using the research for one of my classes. And I also did a 5th year, which I wasn't in the engineering school when I started, so just transitioning into it kind of took me the extra semester. And I didn't want to be in that situation where I was taking like